So I was given these as a gift for Christmas. These are the Apple AirPods Pro, and however you feel about Apple or AirPods, I do not care. I'm actually really glad I got these because I was really kind of curious about these and how certain new features would work for drummers or musicians. And I've seen some drummers using the original AirPods while practicing, which I think is just insane because the regular AirPods are not in-ear earphones, or they're not in-ear headphones. They just kind of sit on your ear, so they don't really offer any ear protection. So as far as I'm concerned, people must have been just cranking the volume way too loud and playing along and just blowing out their ears. Now, the AirPods Pro are a little bit different, and I noticed right away that they would be much more useful for drummers potentially, or musicians, because they are in-ear headphones, and they've got a couple of other interesting features that I thought might be cool for musicians. Now, I never planned on actually getting these because they're quite expensive, but I'm glad, like I said, that I got these as a gift because now I get a chance to try them out from a drummer's perspective and share my experience with you. So like I said, the big new feature with these is that they are in-ear headphones. They actually have silicone tips that go in your ears rather than just sitting on your ears like the normal AirPods, and that's the reason that I thought these might be useful for drummers, because obviously when we're practicing, you want to be able to block out most of the drum sound and hear your music while you're playing. You want to protect your ears. Now, just to recap a couple things you probably already know about these. You probably already know that they connect extremely easily to Apple products. You probably already know that they are completely wireless. There's not a cable to be found here. And you probably also are somewhat aware that there are a couple of new features, one of the big ones being noise cancellation. So noise cancellation is something I've always wanted to try with drums, because the way noise cancellation works is it actually sends what they call anti-noise, or basically the inverse wave of whatever it's hearing outside your head. It pipes that in along with whatever music you're listening to in order to cancel out any sort of background frequencies. So I was always wondering kind of what that would sound like while playing drums. There's also what they call a transparency mode, which is where they use that outside microphone in the headphones here to pipe in some of the outside noise and let it kind of feel like you're not wearing earphones, so that you can still listen to music but still kind of hear the outside world. Now, both of these modes I was curious in trying out, but I also just wanted to see what they sound like while playing drums without transparency mode or noise cancellation activated. So when I actually tried them, what I found was quite interesting. First of all, when using the noise cancellation with drums, which is one of the things I was most curious about, it is a very weird experience. They do their best to cancel out the drums, and basically it almost sounds like you're listening to the drums through like an old telephone, or you're hearing them through an old broken radio. And then conversely, when you're using the transparency mode and it's kind of piping in some of the drums to your ears, it is way too harsh and aggressive. So there's too many kind of high frequencies, which I think is good for when you're just walking around and wanting to talk to people while you have them in, because I'm sure those frequencies emphasize the human voice. But when you're playing drums and there's cymbals involved, it's too much. So it's very unlikely that you would want to use either the noise cancellation or the transparency mode while you're playing drums or any other instrument. Now, the last thing I had to check is what it sounds like when you're not using either of those modes. And what's interesting about these is that there's this little space on the back, there's a little opening that actually lets in a little bit of background noise naturally. So even when you're not using the noise cancellation or the transparency mode, there is a little bit of outside sound coming in. And I think part of that is meant to reduce inner ear pressure while you're wearing them, which I didn't really notice that one way or another, but I did notice that it was a different experience than wearing regular shooting range headphones or using the Shure SE215s, which is something that I've used for quite a while. I'm sure many of you have probably used regular wired earphones, and I know the Shure SE215s in particular, and that whole range is very popular. So if you've used those before, you may have noticed that, or with just regular earplugs, that they kind of darken the sound of the drums. They take away quite a lot of high end, which I've gotten used to over the years and years of practicing drums like that, and it almost kind of squashes the high end in kind of an attractive way. When you're listening to drums, they almost sound fuller and bigger. And when I was wearing the AirPods, I definitely noticed that they were much brighter. and realistically probably more natural sounding, but it did take a little bit of getting used to because I'm used to practicing with the drums kind of having all that high end tailed off and listening to them, you know, through regular earplugs. I would compare the sound of using these without either of the extra modes engaged to using a pair of the sort of high quality musician earplugs, if you've ever used those. I know there are like Heroes, I use the Etymotic ones, there's you know, ear racers, a lot of different versions of those that basically have a hole in them so that they pipe in some mid-high frequencies to make it sound more natural. These kind of sound like that. Now, just to try and kind of give you a representation of what I'm hearing, I'm just going to record myself playing drums, and then I'm going to use some fancy EQ tricks to sort of try and match subjectively what I'm hearing when I use these different modes. So check that out. Okay, so hopefully that gives you some kind of approximation of what it actually feels or sounds like to use these while playing drums. And subjectively, sound-wise, if you have used the Shure SE215s, which are like $100 in-ears, these sound pretty close to that. I've also used the like $500 SE535s, and those are much more neutral sounding. These I wouldn't say are really high quality audiophile headphones, but they sound good enough that I definitely wouldn't mind listening to music casually with these. Now, while practicing with these without either of the special modes engaged, I did start to feel some ear fatigue after a little while. So I don't know if that's just my ears getting used to having more high end, or if I'm gonna need to kind of go back and forth between, you know, the Shure headphones and these. But I would say if you are considering these as a drummer and are thinking about, you know, playing drums with these, I would say they're fine as long as you have neither of the extra modes engaged. Expect to hear a little bit more of the drum sound than you would with regular earplugs. But if you are planning on getting them solely for that purpose, I wouldn't bother. I think if you were already interested in getting these to take on planes and to, you know, work out with or whatever you want to do with these, and you're thinking, oh, is it possible for me to use these with drums as well? The answer is yes, but with the caveats that you're not going to use either of those special modes with them, and it is possible that you would find some ear fatigue if you use them a lot, even without either of those special modes engaged. In fact, you could probably just use these without playing any music, just as regular earplugs, and they would give you a little more high frequency information, maybe a little bit more of a natural sound than just regular earplugs. So hopefully this is of some help for you. I'm glad that I was able to get these and give an opinion on them, because I was kind of hoping someone would make a video about these and how they work for musicians or drummers. Let me know if you have any questions or any clarifications I can make. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.